If you get confused when you hear terms like hyzer, Anny, stability, and grip lock, you are definitely not alone. The list of disc golf terminology is exhausting. It's massive, and nobody really wants to go to a website to start reading through disc golf terminology. That's just boring, and not every word is that important to know. So today on JustDisc, we're going to take a look at some starting disc golf terminology to help newer players and unfamiliar players better understand the disc golf terms. Now these words will be broken down into a disc golf terminology series, with each video describing around 10 to 20 disc golf terms. For today's part 1 video, we'll be looking at the following terms. Now if you already know these terms, you can get a bit of a refresher, or you can simply wait for future videos in the series where we discuss more complicated terms. Now without further ado, let's get into it. Now there are many ways to throw a disc, but the backhand throw is definitely the most common by far. And it's exactly as it sounds. The back of your hand is facing the target as you release the disc. Your thumb rests on top of the disc plate with your fingers curled around the rim, resting on the bottom. The second most common type of throw is the forehand, sidearm, or flick shot. And all three of those words mean the exact same thing. So with a forehand, it's now the back of your hand facing the ground and the palm facing the sky. Your thumb still rests on the plate, but then you have your index and your middle finger underneath pushed against the rim, and you flick the disc towards the basket. Stability, or disc stability, refers to a disc's tendency to turn to the right, fly straight, or fade to the left at the beginning of its flight. And there are therefore 3 levels of stability. When throwing right-hand backhand, a stable disc is supposed to fly straight if thrown flat, an understable disc is supposed to turn to the right if thrown flat, and an overstable disc is supposed to fade to the left if thrown flat. Now, it's important to remind you, or to let you guys know, that whether a disc is stable, overstable, or understable has to do with a ton of factors and not simply the 4-numbered flight system. The amount of power, the throw type, the weight of the disc, the plastic, the temperature, the wind. There are so many things to take into account that are going to tell you how a disc is going to fly. And that is why you sometimes see, one person throwing a disc have it be very overstable, and another person throws the exact same disc and it's very understable for them. So many factors go into whether a disc is stable, overstable, or understable. The flight rating system are the numbers written on the disc to help describe to the consumer how the disc is intended to fly if thrown correctly. Now, most disc golf brands have adopted the 4-numbered flight system, which consists of speed, glide, fade, and turn. Speed refers to how fast the disc must be thrown in order to get the intended flight. Glide refers to the ability of a disc to stay aloft in the air, and you want more glide for more distance and less glide for more accuracy. Turn, if throwing right-hand backhand, refers to how much the disc will drift to the right at the beginning of its flight. Fade, if throwing right-hand backhand, refers to how much the disc will move to the left at the end of its flight as the disc begins to slow down. Now that is just a brief overview of the flight rating system, and if you want to know more, make sure you check out my flight rating system video. It's super informative, detailed, and it also talks about how you shouldn't always count on this flight rating 4-numbered system. Now, Hyzers and Anhyzers you hear all the time, and they have to do with the release angle of the disc. It does not have to do with how the disc flies through the air. So a hyzer, if throwing right-hand backhand, is when the left side of the disc is pointing down towards the ground and the right side of the disc is pointing up towards the sky. And a player would use a hyzer shot for 2 reasons. The first would simply be to get the disc to fade more to the left, and the second would be to do a hyzer flip, which basically means the disc is hyzer to start, it flips up, it turns a bit to the right, and then comes back left, allowing for maximum distance. An anhyzer, also known as an Anny, is obviously the opposite of a hyzer if throwing right-hand backhand. This time, the left side of the disc is pointed towards the sky, and the right side of the disc is now pointed towards the ground. And you would want to release a disc on an Anhyzer angle for a few reasons. One, maybe you want the disc to hold a turn to the right for as long as possible. Two, you may want the disc to turn heavily to the right so that it flips on its side and starts to be a roller. Or a third option might be to simply do a flex shot. You take an overstable disc, you release it on an Anhyzer angle, and the disc fights back to fade to the left. The fan grip is a type of backhand grip that is used for putting. The idea is that you're sacrificing power for control with this grip. So your thumb rests on top, your forefingers are flared out at the back, and there's slight variations that exist, but this is the standard putting type grip. A few people use it for driving, but I don't recommend it. You lose a ton of power. Now the power grip is simply the complete opposite of the fan grip, because now you're trying to get maximum distance, maximum power. Your thumb rests on top and your forefingers are curled underneath the rim so that it gives you complete contact with the disc, and that way you get a proper release. So it's the standard in the disc golf world with slight variations that exist, but it's great to learn it. It's a must know if you plan to get better at disc golf. And speaking of grip, the final term is grip lock. Now grip lock refers to a player releasing the disc later than intended. So if someone is throwing right-hand backhand, the disc will end up being released more severely to the right. But you gotta really be careful because some people get extremely grip locked. So just be careful, make sure that you're standing back. So I hope that you guys now feel just a little bit more informed on disc golf terminology. If there was anything that was confusing, or if you have any questions, don't forget to leave a comment below. And evidently, we've only scratched the surface, so please stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching JustDisc, thanks for getting informed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt.